Okay, we'll go. All right. Welcome, everybody. Stand up, straight for allegiance. Please start. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome all. There's nobody signed up? Nobody. Announcements.
Yes, so a couple of announcements. First, I want to give you some dates. March 11th is the community skate night. And there's a flyer that will be in your mailboxes here in the next week or so. But it's at the high school, and we are providing the skates for free as part of our community outreach. And we actually have the roller derby club from Portland coming down. They have all the skates. They have the people that will be officiating and making sure there's no body checking or any of that stuff going on. But then during that night, we will also have an opportunity for people to come and meet and greet the different companies that we've hired for the bond. So it'll be our project managers, our architects, and if you approve the construction managers, they will be there too.
Do they have to wear skates?
They do not have to wear skates. We're not allowing anybody who might be able to make any kind of claim against us. And I stole that idea from NISA, by the way. NISA does a first Thursday of every month a community skate night. It's really well, so we thought we'd try it here. And then we're also feeding people, so it's just kind of a big community event. So put that on your calendars. And then the day after that, March 12th, is the Bond Advisory Committee meeting. So just chock full of fun. You are going to have a resolution later on in your board agenda for Classified Appreciation Week, which is March 3rd through the 7th. And then we'll talk about the proposed meeting date change for our April. I have tonight here representatives from Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company. You have kind of a one-page document that Scott Rose from R&C Management put together for you to talk about the process. And I also explained that in my board report how we came to this recommendation. And so I've asked them to just be here tonight to just make a couple of comments. And if you might have any questions, that's great. And then otherwise, we'll have an action item later in the meeting. So, guys, if you'd like to come up here to the hot seats.
I can say we could grab that one. That was right. You're good.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good, thank you.
So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves and just tell a little bit about your company, and do they have the information that you're lots of experience, so they know that you have experience.
Well, so my name is Chris Prawl. I am Vice President of Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company, and I am Beaverton born and raised, so spent a lot of time, and then Oregon State University graduate.
I'm Robert Frazier. I'm a project manager. Been with Kirby for about 7 years. Grew up in a community about the size of Jervis, actually, in Eastern Washington. I'll be your main point of contact throughout, hopefully, the whole process.
I'm Brad Howe, Senior Project Manager for Kirby Nagelhout. I've been with the company going on 7 years now, and I'm not a native Oregonian from the East Coast. So.
So every once in a while, the East Coast comes out of Brad. But
Yeah.
so for those of you who don't know, Kansas City was founded in '86 in Bend, when Bend was a much smaller community, and the company grew with the community, which meant building lots of schools. And so we've touched nearly every building in the Bend Pine School District. We're tearing down Bend Senior High School right now. And then, but we've really taken a lot of pride in the communities throughout the state that we've worked in. Much like Jervis, we've worked Hood River County. We're currently working in Ione, in Condon, and then we've worked in Woodburn, done a lot with Beaverton, Hillsborough, and just really cherish our K-12 relationships. And the best part about all of them has been, getting involved in the communities and being a part of the communities we get to work in. And our commitment, I think, in the interview and the proposal was, once you got us, we're kind of hard to shake. So we're always here, in perpetuity. We're excited to be part of skate night and the things that the communities like Jervis put forth. And yeah, I think all in all, I mean, assuming you approve, we're here to make these facilities, spend the $22.9 million very wisely, very effectively, very efficiently, and got all the feedback from the building tours this week, and we're excited to dive in and find really meaningful ways that really the community is going to be super proud of when these projects are done.
So like I said, this is an action item later on the agenda. Who's going on the Willamette Career Academy tour tomorrow? Is that
We actually have one of our guys who kind of handles
okay?
the
So
field guys.
we've got someone from R&C management and someone from Nagle going, just so that they can see, what we're doing in partnership in the region. But also, I wanted them to kind of tap in to see our construction program, and maybe there's a way we can partner with them.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Great evening.
I'll leave business cards here too. I don't want to take it. Always available. Stephen, thank you for pronouncing the name so well. That was amazing. Very impressed.
Oh, I practiced. Thank you. Okay, next, under announcements, it's really the auditor's presentation. They are online. Karen, did you want to say anything?
I put down the document is our annual financial report for you. We still don't have our single audit finished. Hopefully it will be in the next month. So that's just a little part that has to do with the large grant.
Okay.
So anyway, I'll let Steve take over here. This is our lead person over at Upflow.
Hi, Steve, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're on.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to share my screen. If I can have that option for a minute. It says the host has disabled my screen sharing. So
Okay.
see if we can get technology to cooperate with us here. While we're waiting for that, I will just tell you that the audit went fine. Like was just mentioned, we're still waiting to get the single audit portion of the audit wrapped up. Not because of anything that was problematic, it's just a challenging process these days for all of us. To be honest, we have been overwhelmed with work from still kind of lingering from COVID when all the federal money was handed out. Let's see. Oh, now I can screen share. So let me do that. And can you guys see that screenshot there?
Yes.
Okay, good. I've been told that you want me for about 5 minutes, so I'll try and keep this as brief as possible without feeling like we're in a race to get through it, but I will do my best. So the few things that I wanted to touch on are that there are a lot of things that happen in a financial statement audit, and that is a financial statement audit is different from what is otherwise known as a forensic audit, where we're looking for fraud and those kinds of things. That is not our primary focus, but rather to issue a report telling you guys and anybody else that's reading the financial statements that those financial statements are without material misstatement. We do a wide range of things in preparing for the audit, including some of those annoying inquiries that you guys get, questionnaires, asking all kinds of questions, and probably as often as not the same questions that you see the year before. But we have to do that. It's required part of audit practices. Let's see, I skipped a slide there. We look at internal controls, which is a big deal these days, more so than ever in terms of auditing. It helps us to identify areas that we should focus on a little bit more in terms of where there might be the risk of material misstatement. It also helps us to report back to you if we detect that there are significant deficiencies in internal controls, which we did not detect any of. That's not to say that things couldn't be better. Things could always be better in the world of internal controls, but you have limited resources to make that all happen with, and we acknowledge that. And from the standpoint of generally speaking, internal controls, the district has good internal controls. One of the things that we've been emphasizing this last year in regards to internal controls is looking beyond just those daily procedures of who's opening the mail, who's making the deposits, who's recording the receipts, who's signing the checks. Those kinds of things are what most of the time things are focused on. What is not so focused on is the issue of monitoring, which is to say that somebody typically is reviewing the work of some of those more significant procedures that should be part of internal controls, like bank reconciliations and other reconciliations, such as the payroll liabilities. All those things are important because if a balance sheet account like payroll liabilities gets off somehow or another, it can affect the profit and loss, the budget versus actual reports, and cause you to potentially make inaccurate or incorrect decisions in terms of, for example, which programs to continue on with. And given that we're in that time and space of who knows what we're going to be getting from the federal government in particular, this next year or two or three or four, making sure that you have accurate reports is really, really important, I believe. So that's the idea of isolating and identifying internal controls. We do look for fraud, but only in passing, if you will. We keep it in the back of our minds at all times that there are potentials for not just errors, which is the thing that happens. We all make mistakes, and we look to see that the internal controls detect and correct those. But irregularities, which is that fraudulent kind of thing. And again, just bringing that up as part of what we do, we did not detect any fraud at your district. We look at a lot of different records. We test the accuracy and legitimacy of transactions. We verify through third-party confirmations various different account balances. We reconcile or look at reconciliation documents provided for us. We test for compliance with a variety of laws and regulations. And we ultimately then we issue our reports. There are typically 3 of them. The standard auditor's report that indicates the financial statements are without material misstatement. There's a required report at the back of the audit report regarding the state standards, variety of different compliance issues there. And then the single audit, which is the one required by the federal government. We'll talk about that briefly on the next page. Some of the non-audit procedures that we do include preparing the financial statement report that is what gets filed with the Secretary of State's office. We also make adjustments for the district that take the books, if you will, from modified accrual accounting, which is what the district does its regular accounting on. We have to change that to a full accrual basis of accounting for the two of the reports in the financial statements. So those are not considered audit procedures, but rather non-audit procedures. So the audit report, this is that report. So on page I, the beginning of the financial statements, and it indicates that based on our work, we believe that the financial statements are without material misstatement. And that and there are 3 pages to this report now that kind of go through a lot of what we do, what you guys are responsible for, and then a whole page just about on the details of what we're issuing a report on, or not a report on, but our opinion on, and what we are not issuing an opinion on. So we have to specify in great detail what is going on with all that. Single audit, very briefly, again, it's not completed, but it's required by the federal government whenever any local government spends more than $750,000 in a single fiscal year. The process of single audit is separate really from the regular audit. We are really looking at compliance and internal controls in great detail, and specific to major programs that are identified in the single audit reports towards the back of the financial statements. A schedule of expenditures of federal awards is included in that. That goes into great detail of every program and the dollar amount expended for that program for the fiscal year. If we detect weak internal controls related to compliance or financial reporting, we're required to detect those. Again, I don't believe that we're going to have any of those kind of compliance requirements, but if we do, then there's a standard process of writing a response, and that's about the extent of it. I have never seen there be any other consequences related to that. The whole idea is to make sure that districts and cities and governments are spending the money the way it was intended to be spent. And if it's not, then we are it is our job to identify those and help the governments to understand their responsibilities and how to spend that money correctly. And it's not always about how it's spent, but again, about the internal controls around the idea of making sure that it is spent properly. So the government's not just looking for the fact that it was complied with, but what controls exist to ensure that all the compliance requirements are met. Reading the financial report, I won't go into this in great detail either. There's a lot here. The table of contents in the financial report really does lay it out quite nicely that way. The only thing I wanted to mention again is that the first 2 reports, the statement of net position and the statement of activities, they're called government-wide reports. You won't see anything about funds there. It's all of the funds combined, along with what are full accrual accounts. And those would be things such as the capital assets, the long-term debt that you guys now have a new bond related to, and congratulations on that, by the way. And so it's really important to understand that. And this is the first of those statements, the statement of net position. You'll see on here capital assets. And then down below, long-term debt, bonds payable, these other payables, and then pension liabilities, which ultimately cause the district to end up with a negative net position. That's not really too unusual in the world of school districts. The pension liability almost always puts districts in a negative net position. That has nothing to do with, by the way, your fund balances, which we'll see in 1 second here. The second of the government-wide statements is this thing called Statement of Activities. It's a confusing thing to read. Basically, expenses are identified first, then program revenues are identified that relate to those different programs, leaving you with a net loss in those programs as if they were some sort of a business. All those add up to a $17 million loss in your guys' case, then offset by $17 million, almost $18 million in what are called general revenues. That includes property taxes and the SSF money that is, of course, the biggest source of revenue. Important to note maybe that $5 million of grants, not just federal grants, but state and federal grants, were received during the year, received or earned during the year. That may go down significantly. We don't know how that's going to go, but ultimately the net position went up by $750,000 this last year. The balance sheet is where you start seeing normal modified accrual fund accounting, if you will. I'm not going to go into the details of it. You guys can look at that information later, but it identifies the fund balances in what kinds of constraints exist for them. So that's the balance sheet, assets and liabilities in a normal report. You won't see the capital assets or the long-term debt or the pension liabilities. This is more along the lines of your budgetary accounting. Statement of revenue and expenses, revenues and expenses, normal format. This is the general fund. My screens keep skipping forward. At any rate, this is the budget versus actual for the general fund. Not sure. I guess that's all I have there. And then you can look at that. That's back on page 56. It shows the budget beginning balances, final balances for any changes that were made during the year, which you guys had a couple of, I think. And the actual amounts for the general fund, you ended up with $3.5 million in fund balance at the end. If you look at that and compare it with the total expenditures for the year, you're at about 22% of the total expenditures are available to you from 1 year carrying over to the next. So you couldn't go too awful long without some additional revenues before you ran out of money. All right. Well, that might have been a little longer than 5 minutes, but there you have it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sounds like it was a pretty clean audit overall.
Yes, yes, you would be allowed to call that a clean audit. Yes.
Very good.
Thank you so
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Okay.
I know, I thought this was the 2024, and I was like, and then I'm like, this is 2023, because I was looking for stuff, I'm like, what's missing in this? So, yep.
Okay,
Are we reading that?
sorry,
Oh, you're good. No, you're good. Just announcements. We're going to do it. Classified appreciation thing.
It's an action item, so it's later on in your packet, so you can go ahead and move on to approval of your minutes.
Did anybody have any edits? There was one little edit, and I already sent it to Sandra, and she's on it.
Okay, then I move that Jervis, School District #1 Board of Directors approve the working and executive session January 9th, 2025 minutes and the regular session January 16th, 2025.
For a second, all in favor?
I
Aye.
No public forum.
Did we need to talk about the proposed meetings?
We can do that under board focus.
Okay,
if you want.
Perfect. Reports?
Student council, Gabby and Sarah,
Yay.
you're up.
Hey,
Have we been fundraisers you need money for?
yeah.
Okay, you're gonna hear on.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with the sports news. Wrestling boys are heading to districts this Saturday, and that will determine if like they're gonna go to advance to state or like, you know. And then we wish them the best of luck for that. This year the season for boys, like they did all their determination and everything for them, like, you know. Okay, and the coach, we also thank the coach because they helped them persevere through this season. Girls wrestling, the season has ended, but we do have one girl going to state, which is Ksenia Cepeda. Okay, and then girls and boys basketball season has also came to an end. The boys weren't able to reschedule their last game because of the snow, the weather, everything got messed up with the weather. So Unified basketball, last week on Wednesday, they had their last home game and their last basketball game. And sadly, we didn't win, but it was fun. We saw Ben score points, we saw everybody was in it. Yeah, everybody was having really much fun. Good. And then softball season is getting near, so they're already starting to have practice for the upcoming season. And track and field are still having practice. They have less than a week from actually like being officially starting. And like this week, not this week, but especially today, there was 11 kids that actually pulled up. Yeah, because usually it's like around like 5 to 6 people because people are busy, but they're locking in.
Wow. No baseball?
No,
Oh,
that we don't have a team. But we want to start golf.
oh, good.
Like some of the guys really wanna start golf.
Wow.
Then FFA I'm gonna briefly discuss this past January because a lot of stuff happened. On January 17, 10 of the students attended the public speaking and job interview contest. Albert Frost placed third in advanced public speaking, and Salvador Garcia placed second in Spanish Creed contest. And then and then Harper and Jennifer and Monty received their state degree officially. So they had to go to St. Paul and basically do a transition slide why basically they deserve to get state degree. Basically all members like from throughout the capital districts, and that's who we are. They all turn in and go to St. Paul and basically present it. And then they find out later if they get it.
And they did?
Yeah, and if they get it, they go up to March state degree. That's not state degree, state convention, that's where you receive it.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did they find out?
They found out, so now they're officially like they're just waiting.
So they did.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm just kidding. And then this month, February 3rd, Puff, Kobe's pig, she gave birth, and
My son said to watch
and 11 piglets were born, but sadly, and only 10 survived, and they're growing, they're doing great. I was babysitting over the break, and it was fun. And then we attended our district convention on this Tuesday, and some students are reported their scrapbook. There's one you have to do digital and a physical. It's called the FFA throughout like last year, like I would say like during their district convention, that's when you start, and all the way to now. You have to report like the meetings and then any events like district officer, and then also the national you have to mention. Basically like do like a whole storybook of what's going on.
Wow.
And tell them about the year. And then we had a knowledge test. We didn't get any results that sadly no one placed anything, but we did good. It was his first year, so. And then 2 of us, like chapter officer members, ran for district officer. Sadly, we didn't help the position. But
tried.
we did good though. It was actually good. We found out after we were 3 votes away from making.
Oh,
So
That was close.
that was close. So we didn't actually lose. We actually did close. We're gonna lose. And then Harper, she announced her candidates for state office, basically higher than district. It's like the next step, and then we go national. It's basically the your chapter, then your district, then your state, then your national. Yeah.
She deserves that. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's also, yeah. And then she also announced her retirement. She was our district secretary. So it was a big day. It was a great experience. We all had fun and we all will improve from it. And then we have, today we had our FFA meeting. We discussed about more information about SAE, their supervised agriculture experience. Basically, it could range through like you like looking at plants, like planting them and the whole process, or you can go in like in the river, talk about the water and like fish. I don't know that much, but I just heard like briefly what it is. So I'm not an expert. That's basically what I knowledge. It's really cool if you're smart. I don't think so. I'm that good, but I raise animals. But like you raise animals, it's like very good. It's all about what you are kind of finding passion about. Yeah.
like raising animals.
Yeah, I'd rather read animals. I'm good at science, but I'm too very good at that much. Like, that's too much. And then we also talk about state convention. If you want to attend, there's limited spots because it's first chapter office, and then also if you get your state degree, because you have to go to actually get your award. And then if you do Spanish degree or just regular degree, you have to attend the place. And then that's where Salvador's going because he didn't do a competition. He just got like they do like a preview. That's what you do. Like you kind of talk about like what you're gonna do. So they just talk about a bit of like a Spanish creed or English creed, and then when you say national, state, you actually do it in state, and then they judge you off about that, something like that. Because I haven't experienced. That's all I know, guys. Like bringing up, we are planning again classroom. We're talking about it. It's basically when like chapter officers or just members they go in the classroom in the middle school and elementary. Most elementary. We might do middle school this year. I don't know. Yeah. And we basically talk about like agriculture, like you could raise animals, just what the program is. And we read books about it. We usually relates to agriculture. And then we do little mini games with them. And then we're setting up for our team for state horticulture and state vet science this upcoming on April. That's pretty much. Yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
National Honor Society. That's what you guys are talking about the fundraiser. Due to the weather, we weren't able to like do that because like it snowed, and then literally the day that we were gonna do it, like I usually eat lunch in Hamlin's room, and I asked her, so are we gonna end up doing it because the weather's gonna be bad on February 14th? She's like, oh, I don't think we're gonna do it because pretty sure it's gonna snow, and then so we didn't end up doing that. So we're hoping if we can do other fundraisers and yeah. And then Earbook, they're just gathering stories. They're just people from the Earbook. They're just gathering stories for the Earbook and yeah. And then the Inkling, they're working on something to be published before spring. And they announced that they will be having like 3 more newsletters throughout the years.
College and career. This week we have another Junto meeting. The Junto is a program for Spanish-speaking parents and students to gather information and research to achieve higher education through a series of 4 workshops with their whole family. And dinner is obviously provided. And then tutoring and homework help every Tuesday and Thursday. If students need it, they can come after school and they offer bus if students need transportation. And our events are Jervis pageant contents are still looking for costume helper and backstage helper. And Dawnbreaker will be on March 15th at the Jervis High School at 7.
Sorry guys, I've been speaking a lot. I just came running from the family, so I'm like,
So you got worked up there.
yeah, so I'm like, guys, a little. Okay,
I think that's it from us.
yeah, do you guys have any questions?
That was lots of
That was
info.
great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you guys. Always,
Thank you.
always short.
Thank you. Have fun at convention.
Yeah.
Hi. Dr. Helms.
Good evening, everybody. I think there's a future for the golf team if we can find an administrator that's willing to co-coach with a board member. I think we might have a future.
I think you're in deep belts.
I just did.
Can I help out there?
I can get a range card out of it. You don't need it.
Brain's so helpless. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So, kind of going off script of my board report. Wanted to show you that Mari Cruz and Veronica and I over at the Welcome Center have put in some work recently to kind of restructure how we're doing registration. So a lot of districts around in our region offer registration online, and we have not been able to do that up until now. But there's a lot of benefits to it. So if you go to our home, oh boy, he's sinking.
Huh?
Do I have to wait?
Do you what?
Have the right mouse.
Yeah.
I do. Okay,
And-
this is just gonna be a little tricky. It's just not going in the direction I want it to go.
Oh.
What direction do you want?
Yeah,
It's going every opposite. Well, I wanted to go. We're gonna do this. I just have to go on the. Oh, the mouse is upside down.
Oh, there you go.
Here we go. I was like, why is it going in the opposite direction? Okay. Yeah.
Brittany is pretty proud.
That's fun. So if you go to a couple of different places on the webpage, you can find this, but if you go up here, register your student, will bring you to this page. We'll never turn away an in-person registration if they do come in, but we are going to kind of push in the direction of the online piece, and I'll explain why. But Spanish and English, if you click on student registration, it will bring you immediately to a site. I'm new to the school district. It'll ask for all the stuff that we would traditionally ask for. What grade are they in? What's your relationship to the student? What's phone number can we reach you? You know, what's your ethnicities and demographic information before? Does your student have an IEP or a 504 plan? Do they have a TAG plan? Is there any health information that we need to worry about or be concerned over? All those kind of things, and then it'll go to like a declaration. I understand what all this means. And then when they do that, it will then bring them to, no, oh boy. It has been a long day.
Yeah.
I'm trying to go back to my
Yeah.
Google Sites right there.
Right.
Okay. Mm,
Oh,
there we go. So then it will eventually bring them to a place where they submit it. And when they hit submit, Mari Cruz and Veronica over at the Welcome Center, along with all of the secretaries and office managers, will just get an email immediately to them that says that an entry has been made. And we have the form in both Spanish and in English, and they're separate forms, but they'll get, all the secretaries and office managers will get an email that says it's been edited, which means a new registration has been populated. And then they will go in, Veronica or Mari Cruz, they'll initially figure out the information, they'll call the parent, they'll set up either the final process, which they can do over the phone, but they may invite them in if they need to verify some records or something like that. But the whole idea here, and then it populates a spreadsheet that they go into. The Welcome Center would then call, create an appointment to complete the process. Office managers get advance notice of potential student arrival. And so not only does this really clarify and streamline the process for parents as they are arriving to the district, because you can load this up right on your smartphone. And so it's a lot easier to just complete it that way as opposed to come in and have all these different forms they have to do and kind of have to walk through, which is a little clumsy. It reduces a lot of errors for handwriting that a lot of times as we're transcribing for the parents or as the parents write it and then we take it and give it to Celia and Celia is entering it into PowerSchool. There are errors of just playing that telephone game of having to try to figure out what parents have written and all those kind of things. And then it gives the buildings a lot of advance notice that if we have a student showing up with an IEP or a 504 or a health management plan or a tag plan, Charlene wants to know as far in advance as possible so they can find the right homeroom teacher for that student. And the elementary teachers have to do all their laminating of new names and all those kind of stuff. Or at the high school, like Andrea gets heads up that she needs to start creating a schedule for a new student. And, oh, this student has a 504 plan. So let's let Laura be aware of that. So she can then call the parent and say, okay, how do these accommodations? And all this can happen potentially before the student's first day at school, which then not only prepares the whole staff, but it also gives a much warmer welcome because we can reach out to the parents and say, hey, so glad your kid's arriving. Notice that your kid has a 504 plan. You want to connect with our nurse in advance or do you want to just wait a week? Things like that. So hopefully that process works out well. Again, we'll never turn away an in-person one. We're going to kind of move in that direction. And I even made business cards that just say student registration on them, and on the back is a QR code. And then we're just going to have those in all the offices in the Welcome Center. And if a parent shows up, hey, I'd like to register my student, give them the card, they just flip it over, they scan the QR code with their phone, it loads it right up, they can enter it right in, boom, and then within a day or two, they get a phone call from the Welcome Center to finish the process. So
Also save time for the parents.
it should save a lot of time for the parents.
Thanks, progress.
Yeah. Tuesday night, we had a Birth to 5 literacy night over at the preschool. This is being funded out of a $44K grant from ODE. Part of it is Vanessa LaFollette came out of retirement. She's doing a lot of work with our preschool students. 4 days a week, she's grabbing them in either 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 and bringing them over to a room and just working on literacy skills with them in this really small group, using the same early intervention literacy material that our kindergartners and first graders are using at the elementary school. She's just adapting it as she needs to for the 3 and the 4-year-olds. But part of that grant is also supporting bringing in parents once a month, and we have childcare and we have food, so the kids are taken care of. But then the parents come in, and we set this up where it's about 30 to 45 minutes, and we're providing them with all the materials. So the parents go home with printouts, and they go home with markers, and they go home with everything they need to. And it's 5 or 6 different activities that they can then sit down with their kids and do literacy skill building at home at the dinner table. And the teachers are there teaching the parents how to teach their kids. So, and we provide them with everything they need to do. And so and we supply them with all the materials that they need to make that happen, which is pretty neat. So we're doing that once a month. We set our second iteration of it this past Tuesday. And I think that's that for my slides. I'm going to pass this around really quick. I only have 2 things left. I'll move quick. So I just got this today. You're saying I move quick. I know. So
Make sure we can keep up.
Next Level Speech is the company that we contract with to do our speech language pathology services. And if you remember, we moved from in-person speech language pathology to virtual SLP services this year. And it's been tremendous. Next Level Speech reached out to me pretty recently and said they want to start expanding their reach into different states nationwide to see if they can start finding places where they're currently, and they want to do district profiles and do social media with all of it. And they asked for Jervis to be their very first district profile as they are pushing this out nationally. And so this is the article that they wrote up that is going to go out nationally for Next Level Speech as they're pushing it. And you can read the whole thing at your leisure, but what I highlighted was the comments from our speech language pathologist and our speech language pathologist assistant, which obviously I didn't write for them, so these are their genuine feelings. Macy SLP for Jervis reports everyone at the school is kind and willing to help with our services. The staff cares about their students and they want them to be successful. Not only were they prepared for services, but the team has been willing to take feedback on issues and work to resolve them quickly. In addition, I've been so pleased with the level of my students' engagement. They're so excited to come and participate in speech. Gabby, who's the SLPA, writes, I love how supportive the staff is with the setup. We're in constant communication with each other to make sure students are making it to their speech sessions. I've truly enjoyed watching my students apply what I've taught them, seeing their surprised faces when they finally get sound or watching their motivation increases. It's so rewarding. It's been additional helpful that I'm bilingual and can speak Spanish. This connection allows us to build trust on a deeper level, which is really rewarding. And so, we kind of stepped into this space, not quite knowing how it would turn out. And it's actually, it's ended up being pretty tremendous for our students, and they're just as excited as they might have been with in person, and the relationship is really, really good. And then lastly, this is an email that I just got from Liz Lopez, who's our ELD teacher at the middle school. She sent this to me at 3:44 p.m. today. Elementary school has been doing ELPA testing. Middle school just started ELPA testing. High school is starting up pretty soon. Liz writes, after 2 days, we have 21 students left. 3 students haven't shown up during that time. One's a medical reason. The other 2 are just out of the state right now. Speaking is going really well by moving them into the rooms by themselves. They're taking their time. They're writing out their ideas first. We should have the majority of them done tomorrow, and the rest will probably get done next week. I'm really proud of the way they test, how seriously they're taking it, and how hard they're working at it. One of the things that we are doing differently at the middle school and the high school this year is when we recognize that the speaking part of the exam was very difficult for a lot of our ELs because of how self-conscious they get when they're trying to speak in front of a room full of their peers who are also doing the same exact thing. We would just find that their voice articulation into the microphone is really soft. They weren't confident when they were doing it. They weren't, and understandably so. So we structured ELPA testing this year at the middle school and at the high school where we have enough staff support that for the speaking part of it, those students who want to, we're actually taking them out to a completely separate room where they're able to go into that room by themselves, and the staff can still monitor it, but they're shutting the door and they have that space to just themselves. And you can see, I mean, Liz is saying this right off the bat, but you can just see the difference in their ability to say, okay, I don't have to worry about the anxiety of somebody judging me. I can actually do this the way that I know I can do this. And I think that we're going to see like notable jumps in ELPA scores at the middle and the high school level this year, as we have seen at the elementary school the last 2 years. So I'm really excited to see the turnaround now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't get thrown a tricky mouse. That would have been super to start.
Yeah, upside down one.
Oh my God, up my sleeve.
That's like a chicken arrow.
Yeah. Pull those out of the elementary school.
Google certified teacher.
First of all, this is the correct dog.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, seriously, I was like, I looked at this and I'm like, what am I looking at? So, thank you.
For your reading project.
Yeah.
This is also online.
Oh, good. Well, there you go. You see.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Boy,
There was.
I just saw
I could.
I mean, I looked, I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's all good.
Sitting there in the wrong file and everything. All right, well, I'll have you turn to page 34 of your board packet. One of the things I pointed out is that we normally don't have state and federal revenues in the general fund, but we had a water testing event that happened throughout the district, and then Julie puts in for reimbursement from the state, but it's fun. Some of the funds are federal, some of the funds are state. And so under the little middle section where it has local revenue, intermediate, state, federal, you'll see that little 54, 55 and 11,240. It's kind of an unusual thing that we have anything happening there. We do put a little bit of a budget just in case, but that was the reason for seeing that. And so it's good because we went through all the testing, and they don't give us like, oh, you spent this much, you get this much back. They look at how much we spent doing the testing and how many outlets, I guess, were tested. and then consider, something per outlet tested and kind of wrapped in with all of the expenditures. So it's really, kind of a nice little pocket of funds that they've give us. So then we'll have you move all the way to page 34. And this is just our projection of where the ending fund balance will be. This is without the charter school on this one. And you'll see under November, that big gap between what the prior year was in red and what the current year was. And that's because of that delayed tax payment from Marion County. So that was a really big payment that normally we see in November, and we didn't see it till December. So you see we get to December and it catches right back up to where it was. And we are, there's the projected currently is 1.222 million for the ending fund balance, which is kind of in the ballpark of what we thought it would be. So we knew that we need to dip into some of those, reserves, but everything's going fine as far as that's concerned. So hopefully it'll end a little bit higher, but I'm not counting on that. I'm just kind of looking at that. I got to do the budget now. So, and that's kind of what I'm into, is working on the budget. So anyway, are there any questions for me about anything in the packet?
No.
All looks good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And one thing you start another, don't you?
Oh, yes. Sometimes she doesn't end it before she has to start another. So my board report, a couple of items are actually for later on in the agenda, which includes the bond update and the integrated plan needs assessment. I just wanted to address the non-bond related work, which has to do with the turf field. I shared with you that the expenses, especially with regard to excavation and field prep, are coming in a little higher than we had anticipated. So that will be going out to bid next week. Yeah, next week. And once we kind of get that ball rolling, then I'll have a better idea on what we're going to need to do to finalize that project and finish it. The good news is it's Frontier Charter money. That's always been your ice cream money, and we're going to touch this project and touch it one time, do a really good job with it. And then you'll be able to build up your reserves again in Frontier Charter and do other projects.
And this is both football and the soccer field?
Turfing will happen on the football field,
Right.
which then the soccer games will be on that field as well, and the softball infield.
Right, but
And then we're looking at a process where we take the sod from the current football field, which is in really good shape, and reconfigure the soccer fields using that and a football practice field. And then with some of the dirt and soil, also leveling out the middle school field. So what's happened in those fields is the field mice have continued to have a heyday there. And it's actually dangerous, right? So you have kids running, they fall into a mouse trap, break a leg, and that could be an insurance claim for us. At the same time, I approached Gus and I said, great, if we do this, but what's going to be our stopgap measure to make sure that like in a year, we're not in the same situation with the field mice. And so we're going to go ahead and contract out pest management for that kind of thing. Because then the pest management company is the one responsible for following all the rules, following all the regulations, notification to us to notify the public. They manage all of that, and it takes that liability away from the district. So
we just can't get a bunch of little rat terriers take care of them.
I thought about feral cats, but that could create a different issue in our barn. So and then as I said, we had a light catch on fire. So we really don't want that to happen with the brand new turf field and bring the turf field up. So there's several components there that are being worked out.
Just look at bids and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, and then the rest of it is for action, for discussion items.
Board focus.
Yes. So I think I put in front of you classified bargaining dates, just so that you have that. in your back pocket, and at some point you guys need to decide. I'll probably take you into executive session at your March meeting so that you can talk about bargaining and who you want to, if you can agree now, if you want to discuss it or you want to wait till executive session, it's entirely up to you. But we've given you the tentative date and the time so that you maybe can go back and look at your calendars and see if there's anybody that can make that work. Could also be if you can't show up till 4, that's fine too, because a lot of times they ask for an extra half hour to get ready. And then by the time you get in here and do the niceties, you're not really even starting until 3:45.
I won't be able to do it.
I can come, I will.
I probably could do. Okay,
There we go.
so. That's an option.
Perfect.
Okay, and then the next thing for board focus I wanted to talk about is combining the April 10th and the April 17th working and regular session into one meeting on the 15th. So that week, April 10th, Karen and I are both out of town. And then the 17th, I am slated to be at the Oregon Small Schools Spring Conference. And I'm an organizing an executive member of that association, so I probably should be at the conference. So if you can look at your calendars and see if that date works.
And what was it was
April
So it's
15th.
Tuesday.
That's what I thought, the
15th.
15th.
Mhm.
Yeah, that works just fine. for me.
Yeah, so I was gonna say the 10th wasn't gonna work for me, so that's.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I can get rid of the
10th and the 17th. Okay, that's all I have in this board focus.
Anything else? Oh, sorry. Good job, good answer. Consent item.
I did want to point out that I am listed as 7.6 under consent items for my contract renewal. So it's a separate action, or separate consent item than all the other staff.
Oh.
And that, I'm pointing that out because that had, previous to me coming on board, it had been embedded and the board did not like that, so.
Oh.
I don't know if the board hears. For those of you who are on board.
Yeah, just,
We can just put it in, right?
it's already here.
Yeah, it's here.
Okay.
It's already, he's already here.
All right, then, I move, did anybody have any issues before I make a motion? No, okay. Then I move with District Number 1 Board of Directors. Approve the consent items. 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 7.5, and 7.
We have a motion.
Yeah.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Action item.
I'd like to propose that we go ahead and jump to 8.5, approve selection of Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company.
Yep.
And Scott Rose is here. He can share any information or answer questions or give his thoughts so that he doesn't have to keep sitting here.
I was gonna say, we really need to move up step forward.
No,
No,
trying to make
you
it
know-
sit here.
Like the mouse not working.
I was gonna say, Creighton's upside down mouse made my evening, so I'm really fine. I was hoping that you'd record this like some blooper reel.
Yeah, it's not working.
Yeah, I haven't laughed that hard in a while. But yeah, so I appreciate that the board decided to go through that CMGC process, or construction manager, general contractor process, as early as you did, because we're in February, we started that process in November, so it just takes a while. And so in November, we actually advertised that we were considering that, and then you as a board made a decision in late November, and then we put the RFP out in December, and then received proposals in January. So it does take a while. So I appreciate that you approved going through that process so early. And so you'll note in your board notes there for that process is I've identified all of the dates. It was interesting, as was discussed with the audit, is that internal controls are something that are oftentimes evaluated, and that will be the case for your bond as well. There'll be an audit annually for the bond. And so it's important that we record those dates so they understand that we follow the process as is required by the state. And so again, that's more for your information. I'm not going to quote each of the dates, but again, to reiterate, the benefit of construction manager, general contractor is that you have that early partnership. They have, in hopes that you'll approve them tonight, we leveraged your Monday, no student day, and it went through all the buildings. And so they really got a better sense of what's going on in terms of the design and the existing conditions. And we had a lot of good conversation about, for instance, remodeling the locker rooms, how we're going to be able to do this in a cost-effective way. So they're really thinking through that. By having an additional partner that's looking at your budgets and looking at different ways they can mobilize trades, not only will help us to continue to shave our expenses and fit within our budget, but it's also going to really help us with schedule. Right now, they are looking at the durations of each individual work area, from the locker rooms to the library to the culinary area to at the elementary school, the security improvements and so forth, and of course the middle school. They're looking at all those and saying, what are our durations here? Where are we going to reach a pinch point in terms of trade availability? And where should we try and leverage either starting them earlier, either here in 25 or maybe even in the spring of 26, so that we're not trying to shove absolutely everything into summer 26, because that simply is just a recipe for failure. So we have been closely looking at, we'll do that throughout the course by the end of March. We'll have a very good game plan of exactly what's going to happen when, and so that we can give staff as much notice as possible. We're still trying to leverage some things into 2025 summer. We'll be doing almost $2 million worth of roofing work in summer 25 this summer. That design is almost complete, and they'll put that out. And so again, Kirby Nagelhout, if they're approved tonight, they receive these designs and then they bid these out publicly, and then they share with the district what the bid results are. So it keeps it very transparent, and they cannot award any subcontract until it's actually reviewed by us and the district, and we issue what's called an LOA, or letter of authorization. And so on any particular work package, we might be issuing a dozen letters of authorization. We're approving or authorizing their ability to go subcontract to each of those parties. And so it keeps it very, very transparent. And so that will start with the roofing project. Your chimney there, we're going to be bringing that down and getting rid of that as well as we go through a mechanical system replacement.
We're not keeping it.
If you give me your address, I'll send it in your direction.
Those bricks are good for something.
But really taking an opportunity to clean that up too. When we do the re-roofing, it's like, yeah, let's bring the chimney down. Those two beautiful vents that face here, we're gonna get rid of those. Those aren't even hooked up to anything anymore. Those are like your old science hoods, from when it was a K8. So yeah, so we're gonna really take the opportunity to not only take care of your infrastructure and your system so that your buildings extend their useful life, but also the aesthetic components as well. So we're looking at beyond just the roofs. What else can we do this summer that when we push into the summer that makes good sense? We're looking at potentially exterior painting. We're looking at potentially some site improvements. Right now, I'm kind of advocating for moving the ADA improvements for the elementary school up. I'm getting some pushback. People are like really concerned, like, can we get that design done in time? And can we get that permitted in time? Design isn't as much of a concern for them as permitting, because permitting is the one piece we can't really control. So we try and get it in, but we have various hurdles to jump there. But we'll have a definite, solid plan of what is happening this summer, no later than the end of March. But that is the goal: is how much can we push up and just really leverage that opportunity rather than wait? Because I'm sure that your community is thinking, well, we passed a bond in May, and here it is February, and why haven't we done things? And you are not behind. It's just the normal expectation of communities. Well, you passed it in May. Why aren't you turning dirt in June? And well, because there's design and permits and all those other things that take place. So with that, the recommendation tonight is to, you can see the process we went through. We shortlisted the 4 different general contractors, interviewed each of them. It was a large panel. It was not just ourselves. You had 6 district members, as well as ourselves, facilitating the process, and interviewed each of those contractors. Each of those contractors that were listed there, we have worked with them personally on different school-based projects, all quality contractors. You could have gone with any of them. Kirby had approached it from a standpoint of being very intentional about how they would work in Jervis, not just how they worked on schools, but really came with a draft staging plan of how they would set up their offices and their fencing and everything, and the safety protocols that they put in place, because this will be while kids are there. And I think the team was very impressed with their just attention to the Jervis community, not just a generic proposal and not just a generic interview. And so after the 4 interviews, your committee was unanimous in support of Kirby. So with that, we're hoping that you approve that award and we can get them working on it.
I don't have any questions.
No.
I can make a motion.
Go.
I move that the Jervis School District #1 Board of Directors approves the selection of Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company as presented by Mrs. Stevens, but it's not. That's what it's written here as.
So I have a move. And second, any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I have one question
Yes.
for you.
Absolutely.
On the permits,
Yeah.
where are we at? I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, you have to go through City Hall, you have to go through county, where?
Yes, and a lot of parties, and they even contract other parties. So when they are not able to accomplish work. So we have had 2 pre-application meetings. We have a 3rd one scheduled for tomorrow at 11. So we are making sure that we have everything in place before we actually submit the final, the actual building permit. But we've met with fire, we've met with the plumbing and electrical folks, we've met with the building, but again, in a pre-application manner, because we're only just getting through the end of schematic design. So it's kind of big picture conversations. We will have another pre-application meeting in, probably the July timeframe. So again, before we submit for permits, we have already talked to them about pulling out the site grading and underground utilities as a separate permit, and they've been on board with that, so that's good. Our big challenge tomorrow is convincing them that we don't need to add sprinklers to the entire building just because we're renovating a couple rows. So that's our big sort of hurdle tomorrow. So we have good code precedent of why we don't need to do that. And we're always interested in fire life safety, but we also want to make sure that we're using your dollars wisely. So to renovate just a couple spaces and, need to sprinkle the whole building wouldn't be so good. We have also had some conversations, continue to have some conversations about what does offsite development look like, or we'll say street frontage development look like, all along the middle school and high school, because right now the middle school and high school are all one parcel. And so the idea of you put a middle school here, well, the street frontages have to go all the way to the freeway. And we're saying, no, they don't. And this is the code precedent why. And so again, those kind of conversations are all about trying to stretch your dollars and do more of what you intended and less of sort of unforeseen, oh, wow, here's an extra $400, $500, $800,000 worth of stuff. So I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke and tell you that we're going to win every argument, but we're going to try. So the architects actually have somebody that is dedicated to just the permit processing. Her name is Mercedes. She works for their civil engineer, and that is her one job, is make sure we get these permits processed in an efficient way for the district and as least cost at a cost. So that's good. It's not just sort of something the architect squeezing in. They dedicated a person to it. So, which is necessary because sometimes they don't want to meet. We had a meeting with the fire last week, we thought we were going to, and county was closed because of snow. So the whole county was closed. I don't know. So we rescheduled for tomorrow. So we are trying to do those things and trying to be very diligent early on in the process for us. So, roundabout way of saying that is an ongoing and active task, and we have meetings every other week scheduled just to talk permitting issues. So it's separate from all the design stuff. And sometimes those only go 15 minutes. That's okay. It's just tell me the update. What do we need? Is there some data that you're missing? And we are looking at also lot consolidation as well. Your elementary school, for instance, it's on 7 lots or something to that effect. It's like, it's high time that was resolved because it'll actually have some code implications. They'll say that we're doing an improvement over a property line that's in the middle of your school. It's like, well, no, we're not.
Well,
But,
we're told to do that.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. It's so helpful.
yes, so we're going to, you have an alleyway that goes right into your library or something like that. So we're getting all that old stuff cleaned up so that it just simplifies the permitting process. We're doing that ahead of the actual filings.
It's so nice that you have somebody dedicated to that, because it's just.
Yeah, she's very sharp, and she has worked multiple times with the person that the city and county has contracted with always. So they work together a lot. And so she knows exactly what are gonna be her hot buttons. And so I'm confident in the process.
Awesome. All right.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you meant the student workshop tomorrow at 10? I don't know if anybody's gonna be free and wants to join. in
I'm
on
gonna,
that.
yeah, I have that as my bond, update for you guys.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'm just all over the place.
Policy, your second readings.
And those are action items, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the,
You want me to do it? Does anybody have any issues with any of them?
I don't.
no,
Do
Okay.
you have it in front of you?
Yep, I do.
Yeah, go.
I move that the Jervis School District, #1 Board of Directors adopts / approves changes to policies IIA, IKJ, and JHCD as shown in action item 2-25-8.1.
We have a
second
motion.
it.
We have a second. All in favor?
I
Aye. Established number of inter-district transfers. How many did we do last time?
Last time we did 130 and I had Anthea pull the numbers on Tuesday when we got back and we have 137 transferring in.
Oh,
We have 103 that transfer out. And if you look at it at the elementary level, more kids transfer out. But then we're right back to starting 6th grade, we have more kids transferring in than transfer out.
do we have to move the number higher?
I would recommend that you move it to 140. I would just say 140.
I'm down. Whatever you think. If you want 150, you want 200, it's fine.
Bring them on, bring 'em on. What, you said we're at 130 right now?
We're
137.
137.
Oh.
But I'm just looking at the numbers. There's a large number of kindergartners that transfer out. I think that's because of Holy Trinity and Luther. And so they usually come back in. So I think let's go with 140. And if I need to come back and raise it, then I will.
Okay, perfect.
All right, I move the Jervis School District #1 Board of Directors approves 140 students to transfer in the district. Is that right? Oh, no, wait.
Transfer into districts and approves.
How many?
Out.
140 out. So it's
140 in, 140 out. Students out of the district for school year 2025-.
We have a motion.
second?
And a second. No more discussion. Good. All in favor? Aye.
So your next action item 8.3, the local service plan resolution. This is just the preliminary paperwork we do with the Willamette ESD in terms of the kinds of services we could contract with them. We don't use all of them, we use a lot of them, and so it's just a starting point.
Yeah, I didn't really like,
Which one?
on the Willamette thing, I was like, why is that in there? I
Yeah,
just didn't really.
Because we have to just, yeah.
Fine. You wanna make a motion, Jenny?
Sure. I move that the Jervis School District #1 Board of Directors approves 2025 through 2027 local services with Willamette ESD plan resolution as shown for agenda item 2-225-8.3.1.
Motion.
A second?
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There wasn't any major changes to your calendar, was there?
No, the only change, I think, and I think I brought that up, is that, we're gonna, get rid of the snow makeup day at the end of May. It is the Friday before Memorial Weekend. We're gonna make that a regular work day. And so that we can end with all regular staff on the 11th of June, and then that gives us the 12th to pay teachers to pack if they have to pack or whatever. Because your contractors want to get in.
Oh,
Right away.
oh, yeah, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Good.
I'll go. The Jervis School District #1 Board of Directors approves the school calendar for 2025-2026 as shown in action item 2-25-8.4.
Yeah, both.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You budget
We have
people.
We have two openings, we have two applicants.
We don't have to really,
No, there's good ones.
yeah, they both are good.
Yeah, whoever wants to make the motion. That's on 56. then.
Perfect. I move that the Jervis School District Number One Board of Directors appoints Claire Chang and Frank Snyder as budget committee members for a term of 3 years.
A motion,
Second.
and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So there's the resolution, you could just read the proposed resolution language on page 59 instead of having to read the whole thing.
Oh,
It's entirely up to you.
I will just do that thing. Move your school district number one board of directors approves the March 3rd through the 7th, 2025 as classified appreciation week as declared by Chair Director Bruce Marlowe. Motion,
Second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Zoom. Captains.
You have, 4 policies that are listed as a first reading. But as I said in my memo, and as is highlighted here, the last 3, if you look at the changes, they're really just required law changes.
Right.
That have to do with mandatory timeframe, so.
You say we could just
You
approve them?
could, you could just move them as into action items.
That's what I
I would
proposed.
prefer to do that too.
Yeah.
Do it.
Thank you.
Sure. I move the Jervis School District Number One Board of Directors approves policy GBDA. No, I'm sorry. X that. GBNAA-JHFF, GCAA, and JHFF-GBNAA as shown in item. What did I say, 9.0 dash 9.1?
Yeah, and do we have to say anything about moving the tax items? Any kind of wording in that?
Yeah, you really have, but you did have it on the agenda that it would
Be a possible action,
Yeah,
so
you're okay.
So,
Yeah.
all right, so we have a motion,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Very good. All right, okay.
Yes, so I wanted to let you know, yesterday, I think yesterday I spent the entire day in bond meeting. Every Wednesday, that seems to be what happens, so 9 hours in bond. So, we had a schematic design input, which means architects were here. They met with the middle school, interested parties or staff, the remodel concerns or the addition concerns, and also high school staff. Pretty extensive meetings talking about what do you think in general, not getting down to the nitty gritty, like here's a light switch, what color, you know. And so they also have, as Scott alluded to tomorrow, there's a middle schools and high school student work session where they're going to, the architects are going to lead groups of kids in talking about what do they want to see in their school, what's important to them, what's important to them about spaces, like what do you want to see in your cafeteria, what do you want to see in your library. So you're all working, but if you wanted to go, it starts at like 11 o'clock at the high school cafeteria. So, and so we're excited for that. And then on Wednesday of next week in the afternoon, the middle school, the high school staff will be touring North Santiam, which is the up in the canyon where Todd Miller did all of the prefab building.
Mhm.
Not to see prefab, but just to see office design ideas, library spaces, you know.
How light it is.
Yeah,
and-
how, yeah.
I mean, it's just.
What it's like
not
not
that
to be in a dungeon.
Yeah, it's not like a dungeon.
And also going to Cascade School District to look at their locker rooms specifically because they have a new remodel there. So, and then we've got all sorts of schematic design meetings through the rest of March. And that includes picking district standards for things like what kind of flooring do we want to use? What kind of paint are we going to use? So light fixtures. So we want to really try to make it as uniform as possible so that it's easy for maintaining and purchasing, but then having the occasional unique fixture or unique feature that defines each school. And they'll be able to decide what that is. But we're not going to get, carpet that's going to be out of stock and discontinued next year.
Right.
So, we're going to stick with those things. So it's moving right along. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, and we'll have more information at the March 12th Bond Advisory Committee meeting. And maybe by the March board meeting, I'll have some preliminary kind of sketches that the architects could share with you. So I'll see what I can do with that. Okay, well, on to the integrated plan. So this is the old SIA grant. They now call it the integrated plan because it incorporates so many different grants. And one of the things that they require us to do now is to do a needs assessment and then share that information with our school board. And then next month, I will come back to you and share with you the specifics of the plan and also budget, what that looks like. And so we have been working on this for a couple of months with many people. And so I did give you a handout, this little one with the slides, if you can't see it. So this needs assessment provides guidance into how to allocate funds from these following sources. You have your high school success or Measure 98 CTE programs. You have early indicator and intervention systems. So that's systems for gauging how kids are doing social, emotional, learning wise. You have Everyday Matters, which is your chronic absenteeism pot of money. You have a student investment account, and Measure 98 or high school success and student investment are your two largest grants. Like student investment account is over $1 million. It's a lot of money.
Wow.
And then early literacy, which is the K2, K3 focus for getting kids to read early. In previous years, when it was first implemented, we could use it for 4th and 5th graders as well. Right now, as it reads, we can't, but we're looking for a technical fix at the legislative level this session. And as a reminder, when we look at those grants and what we're doing, there's 4 focus areas of spending. You can look at reducing class size. That could also be in the way of adding adults to the classroom. That reduces the class size. So if you have a teacher and an instructional assistant, that splits the load. Well-rounded education, instructional time, that is a little bit more difficult for us because that's a collective bargaining agreement, and also there's still only about 6.5 hours in a day that you can use. But we can use some of our after school time to increase instructional time, so like tutoring, homework help. And then there's health and safety. So making sure that, again, that's kind of tied to social emotional pieces for our students. So then I have to share with you what data points did we use to try to gather all of this information. And some of it's an ongoing process that did happen last year. So I included it because there was information that we received that drove our strategic plan and how we approach the bond and those kinds of things. There's no sense in throwing that information out. So we have had the Youth Truth survey result. We had 937 people respond to that. Wow. Students, staff, and parents. So, and the questions are long. Yeah.
It's gonna be the highest, right?
It's pretty high. Yeah, it is actually. Yeah. Then we had, we do a staff professional survey, professional development survey every spring. You have the SEED survey, which is completed by kids. The high school went through their accreditation process where they did parent and student and staff interviews. They also had independent third-party people coming and looking at things. And so we took all that information. They get information from Jervis Elementary School Family Nights, like what do you want? What else do you need? What supports do you have? The student empathy interviews. We had the student health survey, which happens in grades 6, 8, and 11. DESA, the Stanford Harmony SEL assessment, OSAS data, that's your SBAC, your standardized scores. we had CTE participator data, we had the pre-ACT data, iReady assessments for reading and math, ALEX assessments for math, Alpha 21. This is where I brought in some of the Patinkin Research Group community survey because they did ask questions about how do you feel about your school? Do you like your school? Is it a safe place? You know, so those are things that we use to drive our bond ask. Staff reflections on programs. So we have several TOSAs. We have Cindy Smith, who's the TOSA for reading interventions done at the elementary school. So she's like looking at what do teachers need, what do kids need, giving us feedback there. We also have Stephanie So, who's the math and science TOSA. And then Bonnie Atwood, who's your teaching and learning TOSA. And an early literacy program manager, and that's Elizabeth down at the preschool program. Thank you. Well, and then we had some community meetings as well where we gathered feedback. So a lot of data points. And then the other component that they ask us in the overall application is how are we ensuring that every kid is getting opportunities to access their education and to grow and to explore what does it look like for me when I get out of high school. And so, you know, we obviously use our equity lens and the tool that the committee has developed and trained staff on, along with your resolution right here. I'm going to pull that off the website. So in terms of themes, I have to identify themes for you. And so when we look at all of this data, we see that across the board, like across all stakeholders, relationships, belonging, and feeling supported, having a trusted adult to speak with are all positive. Like everybody says that that happens for their kid, or it happens for me as a parent or as a staff member. By focusing on building trust, being transparent, and partnerships with staff, students, and parents, we have created a foundation for the rest of our work. If you don't have trust and transparency, you're not going to be able to get anything else done. Another theme, all parties feel safe and that they are receiving a good education, students and parents, that's what they say, and are providing they are providing a good education. So staff says that they are providing a good education to our students, and students and staff say, the parents say that as well. Students believe that there is academic rigor. They say their classes are hard and they know how to get help and teachers are helpful. They also report staff has high expectations of them. Parents believe classes are challenging and agree with staff feedback that academic rigor could be improved. So staff recognizes that we need to increase our academic rigor. We believe our students can do more. Parents say the same thing. And kids are already saying, yeah, it's hard. It's getting hard. And I think that reflects that change that we've had in the last year where we talk about it's not just enough to hand you a report saying, oh, you're growing, good job.
Yeah.
You're growing, but you're still 2 years behind. So we're going to need to work hard. All parties reported that the district provides a wide range of opportunities and activities for all grade levels. Parents at the elementary school were disappointed that after-school activities were not being offered due to the loss of the grant, and high school parents asked for more AP college credit courses. So one of those things you did adjust by using some additional SIA money. We were able to offer the elementary program starting second semester. So we will budget for that for next year. And then if we get another grant, well, then that's a bonus. We get another grant. And then the AP college credit courses, that was even a finding or an area of suggested improvement by the accreditation team. So your high school staff will be working on. Additional themes. Staff reports that they need more professional development that highlights topics which improve their teaching. Staff reports they need more time to look at data and determine what next steps should occur. Instructional assistants and employees in early learning report that they need professional development. Staff reports that phonics and vocabulary instruction need to be emphasized with younger readers. Data from iReady and OSAS identifies more targeted instruction needs to occur in the areas of reading comprehension and vocabulary, especially at the 4th and 5th grade level. And then more alignment needs to occur across grade bands in math. And so I ran this by your administrators. they all agreed with it. There was nothing that they were like, oh, we've missed this or we've missed that, but we put it out there so that if you, and I'll be sharing this with staff tomorrow, and then giving them the opportunity to say, I think you need to look at, this idea more, and then I'll go back through and look at the data and see if I can find anything that can address that. If you have something you think that maybe we've missed, this would be a time for you to let me know or give me feedback as you think of it, and I can report that back in March.
When you find the time.
Oh, I will, because I work a lot.
No, when the teachers are asking for more time.
Yeah, that's,
Um,
I just do not get that. And then when we try to give it to them, then it's, so where's the,
I don't know
how
where
do you
the
solve
balance
that
is.
one?
That's a tough one there.
Well, I have some ideas on that.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
So, how will this information change the integrated plan for the next 2 school years? We are going to maintain many of the activities and plans that we had because they're working in some areas. We will add that after school programming for elementary students that we're responsible for paying for so that it's not dependent on a grant. We're going to explore the possibilities of adding more college credit now and more CTE courses. We've already got the culinary art up and running. They don't quite have a college credit attached to it yet, but it's coming, as is the business credit. And then what I've decided, we talked about this as a admin team. So right now, when licensed staff set their goals, we ask them in terms of student engagement, like, you need to set your own goal for student engagement. What does that look like in your classroom? And then you need to figure out, how can we support you? How can we provide you training? And then every training that they ask for in the professional development survey, we've provided. But it was not just like choose 1, 2, or 3. It was open-ended. Tell us what you want. And so that still doesn't seem to be meeting their needs. And so next fall, when they set their goals, they will have to identify the professional development that they want, and they will have to identify where it is. And then they will have to let us know when they would like to go, and we will help pay for that.
Right.
And so it becomes on them to decide, what is it that you need to improve your
Yeah.
teaching to increase student engagement?
And if they don't achieve that goal, what is the consequence?
Well, none of the goals are tied to any kind of punitive action or merit or incentives, but if there is a failure to achieve goals year after year, that can result in a plan of assistance for improvement, which then could end up in a conclusion of your employment if you're not able to do that. And so the idea is that, you say, I want to go to reading instructional strategies for 11th grade and junior English. So then I know, okay, when I come in and observe you, I'm going to be specifically looking for that. And if I don't see it, then you get marked down on your evaluation, and that reflects overall on your evaluation.
Do the administrators go in and audit the classes sometimes? Is that on a regular basis?
Yeah, they do go in on a very regular basis. Not every time is it a formal observation. Oftentimes it's more informal, frequently, so that they can just kind of get a gauge of what it looks like every day in a classroom to avoid that dog and pony show or that maybe not authentic lesson, and more of like what is really the culture of the classroom and the expectations. And that's the thing, like Tony will tell you, she's been going into all of the middle school classrooms. The level of student engagement this year compared to last year, she said it's off the chart. Kids are up, they're talking to people, they're asking each other questions, they're collaborating, they're taking ownership. She said that's very different than what it's looked like, even 4 years ago when she was in the classroom teaching.
So I really think that the phone thing has made a huge difference.
Yeah.
She had it the year before and stuff, so they're getting used to it over there.
Yep. So, and then in terms of time for staff, I'm gonna just kind of put it back on them that they need to identify what kind of time they would like and where they want that to come from. And again, I build into these budgets substitute time and time card time. So I know that they often don't like to be out of the classroom because then it creates more issues. You have to do lesson plans. I'm willing to time card them from 3:30 to 5, a few times a month, or whatever. So that is always an option. And then we're gonna explore adding more time for instructional assistants and preschool staff for training. So they don't work every day that the teachers work. When kids are not on campus, they don't necessarily come to work. So we're maybe looking at adding more work days to their calendar. So that then we could do targeted time to train them in the instructional materials, or, you know, how do I teach this kind of lesson, or how do I support the teacher in this kind of thing? Because that's what they're asking for, is they don't know how to use the curriculum and how to be that support person for the teachers, or how do I document this with kids? And then we'll increase TOSA time in math. That is an area we already knew that we needed to work on. And then we need to create an early literacy vision and goals for preschool through 3rd grade. That's part of the early literacy requirement. And they all identified that they did not have that. So we will get that done this spring, summer, and roll it out in the fall.
No questions for me.
No, that's great. Good. The last one I get is a strike off, and I get the one that says adjournment.
All right.
Anything else, guys?
Oh.
No?